Welcome back to the channel, guys. Happy Halloween. It's October 31st today. Y'all probably see this tomorrow. So I got a wedding coming up. The groom talked to me. He's an occasional whiskey drinker. He drinks whiskey on special occasions. And he was asking me about, stuff. He's like, man, a flask would be nice. Have a little flask. I think that you're just going to have wine and beer for the wedding. So I was like, I got you, bro. Asked him what kind of whiskey he likes. He said bourbon. So I'm thinking to myself, like, he's an occasional whiskey drinker. He doesn't like high proof bourbon, but he likes to taste the bourbon. I was in town today at a liquor store close to it and ended up picking up this Blade and Bow from the Stitzel-Weller distillery. And I was like, dude, just gonna do a review on it. So that's what we're gonna do today, guys. Check it out. Blade and Bow bourbon. So Stitzel-Weller distillery. It's been closed down for a little bit. One of the best looking bottles, personally, that I've ever seen of a bourbon. I've always loved the shape of this bottle. It looks like an old school whiskey decanter. Each one has a key on it. The keys are numbered 1 through 5, depending on which one you get. And I think if you collect all of them, you can send them to the distillery and get something from it. I think they put it together and make they give you a little souvenir thing for it. But yeah, each key, the little symbolization of the keys, it actually has written on here, the 5 keys of Blade and Bow, once hung on the front door of the aging Stitzel-Weller distillery. These heavy brass keys represented the 5 steps of the crafting bourbon and symbolized the art of making the world's finest whiskeys. It's hard to see in this light, but that's what we got on the thing, on the keys of Blade and Bow. So, beautiful bottle. Color on it, it's kind of light. So they're known for using Solera aging. So Solera aging, when it comes to whiskeys, is Stitzel-Weller had really old whiskey, and they were known for, the Pappies and stuff like that. Pappies was now, I want to say, Buffalo Trace actually owns the Stitzel-Weller distillery now, but at one time, they had some really old whiskey in there. All the Pappy brands, the Weller. We went to I remember visiting this distillery in Kentucky, in Louisville, Kentucky, and they actually told us stories about Pappy Van Winkle, different people in the distillery. Some old whiskey that went through there. They actually had the lights. There was a huge warehouse. Not many people had the amount of space they had to age whiskey. So what they would do was, they would pay every distillery that wanted to age stuff there. They would pay a small fee, and the stocks would get aged over there at Stitzel-Weller. But some of their whiskey is really old, and their Solera aging process, they claim that they take a little bit of the oldest stocks and blend it with the stuff they make now, and it's supposed to create a more consistent product. So every bottle of Blade and Bow is supposed to taste very similar because you're getting a little bit of the old product. It might be maybe 4 milliliters in here of the very old Stitzel-Weller, but supposedly you're still getting some of the old Stitzel-Weller, and that's the I guess the gimmick or selling point into this whiskey. So it runs about $50 a bottle, $50 a bottle. You can find, every once in a while they have little sales. I think I picked this one up for $40 today. So figure we do a review on it. Color, it looks a little more pale for a bourbon. It's not as dark as a lot of bourbons you see. We'll get into the nose. So right away, so it doesn't come out and hit you real fast. Proof on this, by the way, is 45.5 ABV. So you're looking at 91 proof. Very subtle nose. It's not like a bourbon, but then again, it's 91 proof. So I guess I'm used to at least 100 proof bourbons is coming out and greeting you in a glass. You can kind of get down in there. It's a subtle nose, but I get grassy notes, which is weird in a bourbon. Usually it's more for Scotch whiskeys, but it's grassy. Almost like hay or straw. Definitely getting like sweetness, subtle sweetness though. That you would get from bourbons. You get some caramel in there. Definitely some cherry. Barrel spices are there, but it's like I said, it's very subtle. You actually you have to go searching for these notes in here. Bacon spices, cinnamon. Cinnamon's kind of tampered down bacon spices. I wouldn't say like straight up cinnamon, but very nice little subtle nose. Nothing that's gonna overpower your senses when you getting into this whiskey. Maybe a little butterscotch. But if I could sum it up, grassy, butterscotch, subtle notes. So let's get into taste, guys. Cheers. So the flavor on it's pretty good. Also subtle. You're getting, I still get that grassy note. Grassy, opens up to sweetness, but it's almost like a, it's gonna sound crazy, but it's almost like a malty, like butterscotch than it is like a bourbon. I don't know. It's definitely a bourbon. You get some oaky notes, but it's a very easy to drink, subtle bourbon. It's smooth. You do get the oak hit about mid palate. The oak comes in, but the flavors are like grassy hay. You get butterscotch instead of like dark caramel notes that you would get from a bourbon. A little bit of cherry notes. Kind of opens up into the spice, which is kind of like a generic bacon spice note. Just not any kind of like hits of certain spices out there, but the finish kind of wafts away quick. It's not a very long finish on this one. I'm not sure. They just said no age statement. So it's a blended whiskey from Stitzel-Weller where, like I said, they blend some very old stocks, which they claim is very old stocks from what I've looked up of Stitzel-Weller. But you don't know how much of that very old stuff is in here because using Solera aging, it could be a fraction of each time they age it. You're going to get a little bit less of it because, you know, as they go, you can only have so much old stock, but they put a little bit into each one. But it's a process of like mixing barrels, putting the old stuff with the newer stuff, with the newer make whiskey. Good whiskey though. I wish it was a little bit cheaper. Like I said, I got it a little cheaper. This one actually usually runs $45-50. I got it on sale for $40, and at $40 is pretty good. I wish this would sell for $35 all the time. That's what I think the price point should be on this, $35. It's got a very maybe Buffalo Trace kind of vibe to it. It's very smooth whiskey. It almost comes off as a Buffalo Trace. With Buffalo Trace, you get a lot of apple, though. I don't get that oaky apple taste with this. It's more of like a subtle butterscotch, kind of creamy note to it. But the finish kind of goes away pretty quick. But it's not a bad whiskey. And I literally picked this whiskey almost as a wedding gift, something for the groom to drink and enjoy while he's, going through the wedding and stuff. It's a good whiskey. It's not going to overpower anything else as far as like being a cask strength whiskey. He won't drink and be like, damn. It's a subtle whiskey. And for somebody who enjoys bourbon, I think that would be perfect. So 91 proof bourbon on that. But that's what we got. Blatant Bow. I enjoy it. It's a good whiskey. At one time, when I first got into whiskeys, this is probably it's crazy it is. It might be one of the first bourbons we actually got into and actually started enjoying most of the bourbons out there, it takes a while to actually drink whiskey neat, try it out and enjoy it. But this is one of them that's easy to get into if you're an occasional whiskey drinker and you want to have a bourbon. It's easy to drink neat because it's got subtle flavors. It's not going to hit you in the mouth with proof or anything, or just a lot of flavor. So it's kind of easy to enjoy. I used to love it. This was one of my favorite bourbons, actually, I said, until I started branching out and finding different things. But Couyons rating on it, 6.75 out of 10. It's good. It doesn't taste old, even though it's a non-age statement whiskey. It doesn't taste like it's old or has a very good aged bourbon, but it also doesn't taste youthful either. Like sometimes you get a whiskey, might be on the cheaper price point, and has those youthful metallic, sharper around the edges kind of notes. It doesn't have that. It's just it's subtle, but it doesn't taste super old either. It doesn't have a long finish on it, I find. But very good flavors for a bourbon. It's a well put together whiskey. I just wish it was about $10 cheaper. But 6.75 on the Couyons rating on that, Whiskey Couyons rating. Thank you guys for watching. Happy Halloween for everybody out there, and we'll see you guys in the next video.